Okay, we might be live. I'm not sure. I think we are. Cool. I'm just gonna wait a second. I'm gonna wait a second for if people get in and to confirm I'm live, but I'm pretty sure we are. So I'll get started in a minute. Nice, confirmed. All right. And then there. And then there. So yeah, similar to last week, I'm just gonna pick up some random part and keep working through. I'm still working on the new Builder Studio stuff. Today I'm gonna do stuff specific to opening a new project. But basically, I'm just gonna work through. I don't really have any plans. I'm just gonna work through and talk out loud as I work. And I do have the YouTube chat open on the bottom of my screen, I think. It's kind of tricky to tell if I can see the whole thing, but I think I do. So yeah, so if I see anything in the chat, I'll try to respond, but I might miss it also. So anyway, let's see. I've got the studio open here to the Builder project. So if you didn't watch last week, this is a new, we're doing like some new visual updates in the studio. And what we're looking at is like a dashboard view. It's in the studio, so there's no content. It's a little hard to see if you haven't seen it last time. But this is a dashboard view. And I have a task to add, when you click new project and it actually starts creating your project, there's like a gap where Builder's doing stuff behind the scenes, but the page doesn't change yet. So basically I have a task to add a little waiting message there. I'm going to start with that, but then I'm just going to kind of continue through the new project flow and add like a little bit of design touch. I'm not sure how far I'll get, but it's an area that similar to what I was doing last week that Mark had created, made it all work, designed it to a certain point, but now I'm kind of going back through and making sure everything's like in a consistent system and sort of like think a little more deeply on the UI if possible, like certain things might switch around. So for this to start, I'll get started on that waiting message, which is easy to tackle, and then I'll just kind of like start playing and see where it goes. So yeah, so let's see. Basically, I should probably pop open a preview too. There we go. So basically, whenever you click to create a new project, we have a new little interstitial menu now that looks something like this, but this is what I'm going to go sort of like think through now and make sure we're doing all the right things. But basically it gives you the option to start from a blank project or start from templates, and we're going to like build out the template. So there's a lot of good stuff to start from. You categorize it and tag it and all that stuff. So right now it looks like this. When you're in your dashboard and you click new project, it kind of like takes over this window. So right after I do that message, that waiting message, I'm probably going to change this so that instead of taking over the window, it does a pop-up, because up here it does a pop-up. And so that's something I'm just going to give it a shot. I'm just going to implement that, and then over the next few days as I'm building, I'll keep seeing it and I'll know whether, and other people using it will know whether we like it or not. So let's see. So the thing that I'm actually talking about though, the first part is when you create to click a new project and then you actually create it. Like when I click this select button, there's like a hang up. You'll see it'll wait a while before it actually switches in. So I clicked it and now I'm waiting, and behind the scenes Builder's creating the project, and then it's loading, and now it finally actually loads that new project. And this right here is what it'll probably look like, the little waiting screen I'll make. So that's how long it takes, and it's nothing much we can do. We can probably speed that up, and I'm sure we'll speed that up a little bit, but there's not much we can do about the wait, so we're going to add a little waiting message. So what I'm going to do is come back into the studio, and then I have to track down this new project. So I know that when I click this button, it takes me to the first step, so I'm just going to go through step by step and find it. So When on the click, it's open, create new project. If I go here, it's opening a page, a new project page into a container. So I'll go to that new project page, dashboard, new project. And right here, dashboard, new project. So here's that page it looks like. And then when I actually click the select button for the new project, that's on the project card. So I have 3 project cards here. I can click go to child page. It'll jump me right to here. And then I'll just keep tracing down. So there's mouse enter and mouse leave events on this outer, which is not what I want. And then this select has a click event. So that's action, create project from template. If I look at it here, here's a bunch of the stuff it's doing, like part of the reason it takes so long. So it's setting a variable, a crazy name, with something from the database, it looks like, generating a GUID, creating the actual project in the database, setting a bunch of variables. So like inside of Bildr, it's kind of crazy because Bildr is a project in Bildr, but you also need to like do things that affect the projects in Bildr. So there's all these things with like current form revision ID, current form project ID, where it's like you're telling the studio what's the studio and what's the project that you're working on. It gets pretty complex. So that's probably what a bunch of this is. A bunch of JSON parsing, setting in variables. Looks like updating full section. So this is doing like all the crazy heavy lifting in the back of Bildr, but it's kind of cool to see because like we really do it through Bildr. So let's see. And then, yeah, I think it's at the end, it's probably just going to redirect. That's what I was looking for, but I don't know where. Oh yeah, so right here, open project URL or open with lesson. So basically all that stuff that's happening behind the scene, I'm just gonna pop a waiting message up beforehand, and then actually I don't even need to hide it because at the end it refreshes the page. So I really just need to pop it up. So this should be pretty simple. And then I need to do the same thing on the duplicate project. So what we have in Bildr project right now that's kind of cool is like we're building out systems and we're standardizing a lot of stuff. And so one of the things I did was I started creating custom actions for little things like a little timed notification that pops up and then goes away, or the different light boxes. We have like 3 sizes of light boxes, and made like actions for each of these things, which helps us standardize like the visual, the actual final output, but also when we're working. Now we don't have to keep thinking of like which root variable do we set to open which page in which container. It's like I'll just contain that all in an action and make a custom action. So it's been pretty cool. I've been like pretty excited about how it comes out. So right now I've got 4 in here. Confirmation message, opening a page into a light box, a little timed notification, and a waiting message. And I'm not even sure what waiting message exactly is. I can't remember the difference, but that's probably what I want in this case. So I'm just going to try this. And it puts it at the end, but I want it in the beginning. Come on. So I'm just going to move this all the way up. And for the message, I'm just going to say creating project. And then I'm going to see if that worked. I'm going to refresh just in case. I shouldn't really need to refresh there, but since I added new stuff, just want to make sure. So right here, once I click the select, this is where it should pop up a waiting message, and then shouldn't need to have it go away. Everything should look good. It should open the next thing. All right, creating project, building your project. That went way faster that time. That was crazy. All right, so task done pretty much, because I think that looks pretty good. And what I'll do, or what I always do pretty much, is like I'll set that up and I'm like, all right, that looks pretty good. And then over the next couple of days, as we all use the studio in our development version, we'll see that over and over, and then we'll kind of know if it feels weird or if it needs to change. But for now, I think that's good. And then the other thing I'll need to check is on the duplicate project. It's probably the same exact solution, just in a different function. But we built a thing where if you right click on these project cards, you can duplicate. Although maybe not. I don't know why there's not a duplicate in there. Somewhere, maybe I'll just do that later. I feel like there's supposed to be a duplicate. Maybe it's like hidden or in process, or there's some little bug because we're working on things, something that make it not pop up, but I'm not sure. It's funny, I can see the chat moving, but I can't actually. I think that the bottom's cut off for me, so I can't really see what's going on. Anyway, yeah, so I think the duplicate I'll just handle later. It's going to be something really similar to that. What I'm more excited about doing is like more the creative work of coming in and sort of like redesigning this screen a little bit. These cards. So right now we've got a card that represents a template. So if you're starting, you can start from blank or start from templates. So one thing I know is like I want to change this message and maybe add some sub instructions. But also we have to think about like what's the best way to show these screenshots and what's the best way to handle this hover, this rollover, because I kind of want to see this description underneath, you know, out in the open underneath the title. And then do we need this hover? So I just want to play with all that stuff, and that's kind of what's been fun about this whole process of redoing the studio, is just getting to come in here and just kind of like play. So that's what I'd like to do. But before I actually dive right in, I'm going to switch this new project button to open in a lightbox like this. And so that's actually a similar process where I made a lightbox action. So if I go, let's just go like this. Dashboard 922. My computer is like the fans going and stuff. It sounds like it's struggling right now. Whoops. Okay. So on this page, right now, open new project will open the page into that center container, and then show content onboarding. So I might have to handle this if I'm going to switch this up. So it's like another thing that's cool is, or another like tip I should say, it's not really cool, is like when I'm doing stuff like this, like if I see something I'm not sure of, I want to be extra careful when I go to switch things around, because there's so many things going on. Like 5 people can be building a builder at the same time. So I'll figure out what that is in a second. But for now, I'm going to just do this. Instead of opening the page into the container, I'm going to add one of those custom actions for Lightbox. We've been calling this BDS, like Builder Design System. So I go BDS, open page in a Lightbox, and this is again a custom action, and I made a few things where you can set the size, and actually we kind of combine these for no reason, where it's a size with a close and a size without a close, like a little X close button. But for this, let's see, I think that was a large that I used for the other thing. The page to open is going to be, oh, I see. He's opening this onboarding / new project page. So that's probably what this has to do with. So I'm going to open content, onboarding, new project. You can see there's like 1,000,000 pages in the Builder project. Content, I thought it was called. Oh, that's the element. Whoops, no wonder. I'm gonna open dashboard 922 new project. Dashboard. Okay, and then I don't think I need the mapping. So we have this thing where we pass record context. So if I'm opening a page into a container, which in this case originally it was replacing that main content with a new page, a new like builder page, you can pass record context if you need to, which is super useful. So we have like stuff set up all over the studio with 3-dot menus. It's like built in a system where it's using that record context and doing some cool things. But it looks like in this case, he's opening this new project window with no record context. So I don't actually need that, but just wanted to mention that's what the same thing is here, custom mapping. Record context and custom mapping are the same. So anyway, that'll do for that. This one, I'm just going to copy it and then delete it. It's not hard to recreate, but that way I can paste it back if something is weird. And then I'm just going to see if it worked. And then I think what that other action was is something that says, if you have no projects, show onboarding. Like I bet it's something to that end. So I'll figure out what that is in a minute. So I click this, now it opens in the light box. And if I close it, nothing's open there. Oh, it cleared this out, it looks like. So that's probably what that other action did. So let's see, it's this one. Hide all content containers. Hides that, yeah. So I don't know what that is exactly, and I'm not going to delete it right now. But I probably, let's see, it's a nested thing, so I can get it back. So this, because this is a nested flow, it's like I'm not really deleting it. It's really easy to add back. So I just have to remember what it was. And it was show content onboarding new project. I'm just going to remove it for now, but I'll have to put it back in. Figure out what it is. Okay. All right, good. So now we're back. So the reason I wanted to do this originally, well, there's a couple reasons. One is that if you click up here, it was doing a lightbox because you could be like on another page and do it. So you don't always have this section open into. But also in the studio, you can just go in the new menu. You can go File, New Project, and it opens in a lightbox. So this was the only one that didn't open in a lightbox. So I wanted to make it standard. And then also, I think it's a little more convenient now because when you click it, if you decide not to make a new project, it takes you right back into your projects. If you have a search, well, it's a bad search because it's a million projects with tests. But I don't know what projects I have in this account. But if you had a search that was custom in there and then you hit new project cancel, it'd come back to the same search. So a couple little reasons, and we were like, let's try it. So that's that. And now what I want to do is I want to actually take care of this screen, what I'm seeing here in the pop-up, and basically think through from first principles, like what are the things we need to do and how should it look? And so I know a couple things off the bat is I want to be more descriptive in this start from template wording. Like it doesn't need to be, it needs to be more descriptive than that because it's not really just about starting from a template. And then I was thinking probably this is a drop down to set your default region or to set the region for this project. I was thinking about maybe moving that like right under the title or something, somewhere a little more obvious just in case. But other than that, I'll just play because I'm not really sure what I want to do besides that. I think these cards are moving in the right direction for sure. So I'm not sure like what I want to keep or remove. But I like the idea that they're a little bigger, and I like how they have this preview option. So I want to make sure I keep that stuff and just make it like look good in the rest of the system. So for that, it was the page was called New Project. Oops. And there, and then. So here's that text. So I actually don't know fully what I wanted to say, but the idea I want to come across or get across is that you can either start with this blank or you can start from a template. What I don't want to do is have like start blank as a whole row and then another heading of start from a template, like separate them because that's too much real estate. I think visually, like I don't even know if this is what the screenshots will be for these. They might be, or it might be a screenshot of like the actual preview or something. So we want to make sure visually that you can tell this is a blank one. Maybe we'll put a big plus sign on it or something, and then leave it as the first item in this entry. So I think really what I want to try to distinguish that is in this text, and I want to do a little subheading too. So maybe I'll add that in. And that can be, I'll use a header. I'll use like an H1 or an H2 for the start from a template, and then an H3 or H4 for the other one. Whoops, header is actually not the right thing. I want heading. I'm all over the place today. Yeah. Okay, and so this one is an H1, this one's an H2. Whoops. That bug. I'm gonna make that an H3 to see what it's like. And then this just has inline styles on it, so it's just, kind of in process probably. I'll move those. I'm going to style this. I'm going to keep it inline and just kind of style things around. Like in this discovery mode, when I'm moving things around a lot, I usually don't create classes at first, unless I really know. Sometimes I'm like, I know that's a class, I'll do it. But in this case, this top heading has just inline styles, and I'm just going to do that for mine. So we'll go text align center. And then I mentioned last week a little trick I do for squishing like the first line of a subhead and a heading is I'll just do a -1M as a margin top, kind of like butts it up against there nicely but leaves a little space. So it's more like that now. And then yeah, this is gonna be, I mean, so the first thing is I kind of want it like this, like where it's like telling you what it is and then saying start from, yeah, I don't know what to write here. This is tough. I mean, and this isn't just up to me. We're gonna like, in the end, we'll figure this out as a team. But I just want to get it closer to what I might think it should be. But something like new project can start from blank or template, but something much better than that. And then I want to move that region selector underneath. So right now it's positioned absolute here and it's in the correct, oh, it's not quite in the correct spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it relative and then I'm going to move it right under the title. Okay. And then let's do, I'm not sure what this element is right now. It's probably already display block. So let's just do margin left auto. Margin right auto. Width, whoops. So I typed like a little extra tick mark there. You can come into the CSS and fix it like that, but I usually just delete and re-add. Width, I'm gonna go enter manually. This is another thing I use all the time that's kind of hidden in Bildr. But if you have a width, we don't have it in our dropdown. We'll probably put it in there soon, but you can go to enter manually. Enter GUI is what you normally see. If you go enter manually and you type fit-content, it'll just make something that's normally 100% width, a block level element, it'll shrink it to fit whatever the content is. So if you have margin left and right auto on something, you just do that with fit content and it centers it really nicely. So you can see that's centered right there, centered right here. And that's pretty hard to see, that drop down. So I'll definitely want to either style it or at least just add a little border on it, because that's definitely tricky to see. And it looks like it's the default drop down, I bet. Or maybe someone put a background color on it. That would make sense. All right. So let's see. Just like seeing these chats real quick, if there's anything I should talk about. The mobile side of the new studio. I don't know if I understand exactly what that is. Like if it's like styling for mobile or using it on mobile. So I've never actually used the studio on a mobile device, but iPad, yeah. Let's see. Where was I? So just kind of getting this roughed in. I'll do a little border there. That's fine. Yeah, I think we'll probably just move into these cards and try to figure out. So right now, looks like the size is changing a little bit on the hover, and it's covering the preview with this gray. I think one thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make sure all these grays are like the same grays as the rest of the studio we're using now. And then I'm gonna probably make that a little bit transparent first and just see where it takes us. And that's kind of how I'll start on something like this, because I literally have no idea what it should be. Well, usually how I start is I'll look at other stuff. So at some point I'll do that too. But I just kind of like start changing things. And I was doing that last week too, I think. Just commenting things out and everything gets in this crazy hectic state. And then I slowly wrangle it back in and get it to where it kind of like, it almost like builds itself back into where it needs to be. So to start, I just like see that first thing I might change, which is the transparency on that hover. And I'm like, all right, it's a good place to start. So let's see. New project card outer has a hover. Oh, that's the transform. I'm actually going to remove the transform for now. That's how it's scaled up a little bit on hover. I've been not doing that in other places in the studio. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe we'll add it back in, but I feel like it's a little bit, it just doesn't feel like it matches the rest of the the UI in the studio. So I've been sort of just removing those. But the way I remove it in this case is to say scale 1 instead of whatever it was before, like 0.01. So if I need to add it back, I don't need to like re-add the style or remember anything. I'll just go change it. But technically saying transform scale 1's pointless. You don't need that style. Let me, one sec, just hide that screen and see. Okay. I just wanted to read a Slack message without showing it. So yeah, so I see in the chat asking about what I'm building. I'm actually building part of the new, we have some new updates to the studio, which is a big, like a lot of visual updates, but also in this case, there's like a new section called a dashboard where you see all your projects. And right now I'm sort of just playing with the area where you start a new project. So there's a start from blank. There's also some templates in there, that kind of thing. But really what I'm doing is I'm just working in this new system and sort of figuring it out. I'm kind of aimlessly moving around, just talking as I do it. And then, yeah, the other thing, I guess in the chat, people are talking about early access, and that is a really cool idea. I think one thing for sure is the plugins, like, let's see, I don't even know what any of these projects are, but the plugins that currently exist, the menu that starts all the community plugin stuff and some of the other places are kind of gone now, right? So we definitely need some early access for the plugins to all work. Yeah, this menu on the side is gone now. It's moved into here, so that could be a place in here, but you know, it's a whole thing. So we'll need, we chatted briefly about it and said that the people who are working on the deeper integrations, that it's going to affect their stuff. We'll let you all in the test release, like in the test phase, or sometimes, so you can, before we launch live, you can make any adjustments, and then, you know, we can help to make it as easy as possible. So yeah, let's see. And these news updates, there's kind of a big one in the beginning, but really what it is, it's going to be probably like a year-long effort where there's some splashy stuff now, but as you work in the studio, you'll see most of the interactions are actually still the same as they always were. And then over time, we're going to just be upgrading all the little things. And one of the cool things just to mention is part of this release when it comes out is we're doing partial publishing, which means like you can publish a single page. So right now we do these big releases and we basically have to have everything ready, everything tested all at once. So, you know, there's front end, like there's us who work in Bildr, there's devs who are working on the code, like everything has to be synced, and then we do these big releases. After this release, going forward with partial publishing, we can actually make little changes to just one single page and publish out just that page. So we'll probably have a faster cadence and get to do more stuff, you know, and just to mention, like things will be going faster. So when I'm doing this now, it's like a big thing that I'm coordinating with all the other changes we're doing. But after this publish, I'll just go, you know, update a certain section and then that'll go live in the studio. Update the next section of things that'll go live as I'm more real time, not literally real time, but because we still do testing. But it should be cool. So let's see. Where was I? Oh yeah, back on these cards. So I'm just looking for that cover that comes on, which I assume is probably on this upper since it wasn't on the outer. So, and again, Mark built all this stuff. So he created these classes. I generally know how he works at this point, so I can usually find it. But it's like, if I were doing this with anyone else who built something and I had to find things, I just kind of logically go through. So I checked that outer, wasn't there. Check this upper, which is the next one down. And there's not a hover on it. So I'll check this cover. It's kind of promising because it's called cover. This looks like it's it, but it looks like maybe it's hidden somehow. So it's got a display none right here. So it looks like the cover has a display none, and then I bet with an action, it's gonna show it. So here's a mouse enter flow, and yeah, it shows cover and mouse enter. So covers the flow that are the element that I'm looking for. New project card cover is the class I'm looking for, and in here the first thing I'll try is I'll just go to this background color, which, yeah, I don't think that's in the color palette that we're using now. I'm not sure. I kind of remember these values, but not really. But I'll look it up in a second. But what I'll do is I'll add, it was an RGB value, but I'll add the A, so the alpha, so it's RGB A, and then make it 0.9. So it's just like barely see-through, but I think what it'll do is give it more information sent. You know, like it just like feels a little better. It feels more in context. And maybe that's not dark enough, you know, for this text that's over top. But one of the other things I want to try is moving this text underneath here. So maybe we won't have it. Maybe we'll just have a big preview and big select button. And this level of opacity will make sense. I feel like that's probably right, but for now, I'll just leave it at that. And then I'm just going to change this value to one that I remember. I think I remember, but I have to confirm that. I think that's just in the grays we're using. Yeah, I'll probably change that. I'm not sure I like it. But anyway, yeah, let's move this other stuff around now. So I got the cover with the description here. I'm just going to put the description into lower. So here's the project name, here's the description. And I don't need to worry about how they're bound. Like Mark has these bound to the data somehow. I'm sure it's in an actions here, but it's cool because I don't really need to care about that. I can just move the element. So I'll just slide it into place. And then what I'm going to do, instead of having it by default say description of the template, just like above it, project name, I'm going to start it basically blank. Because sometimes, depending on the internet speed, you'll see that placeholder text when you first load. So, you know, I can just leave that blank and then test out how this looks, and I'll refresh because I don't see those under there yet. The other question would be like, do we even need to have a mouse over with the preview and the select buttons? It is how Webflow does it, I think, or at least one of our other competitors. You know, we did a bunch of research, but like, is that even the way? Or maybe there's just a preview button down here, which we used to have. But I think what we want to do with the rollover, what we're trying to do is keep the actual card itself a little cleaner and not have the preview button on the card. And plus, maybe there's more options in here, you know, once in the future. So I think for now, I kind of like this approach where there's the description underneath. I'll make it a lighter font weight and possibly a little smaller. And then I'll do something maybe so it cuts it off in case there's a really long description. Well, I shouldn't do that actually. You want to see the whole description. So maybe we'll have to limit the descriptions in another area. The cool thing about this is right now, it's just us doing it. So we're actually building a system. All the stuff we're building is going to be user accessible. So you're going to be able to make your own templates, make your own actions and share them, make your own, I don't know, whatever else. Lessons is another big one, and courses. That's going to all be open to users. So we're building the system for that. But right now, we're the only ones that are going to do it for this initial release. So what's cool about it is we're basically get to test the system and all the edge cases without actually having to cover them all right now. You know, we'll be able to say, okay, that feels good at this limit, and maybe we'll limit it here rather than there. We get to sort of feel that out over the next couple of weeks. And then, you know, at some point, like I said, we'll open that up to users, which is super exciting. That's a whole other big side of Bildr that is going to, I think, be really beneficial, but that's getting built up right now. So anyway, yeah, let's go finesse these styles. Like this, these are bad to be the same weight like that. So let's look at what they're doing. And the other thing is, I don't know if that's even updated in the new font that we're using or not. So let me take care of all that stuff. First thing is I'll remove that page body class, which is comes by default in page body. It's super useful in other projects, but in Bildr, it's annoying because we have like a million projects in one. Like there's the studio, the website, the education stuff, and more, and past versions and all that. So that page body class is not as useful in the Bildr project, and it affects it. Like it affects the style. So we always forget to take it off. So that's the first thing is I'll just remove that. And then I'm going to look and see if any of this specifies a font. I'm trying to cascade the font from the body, like set it on the body and let it cascade all the way down. But because Bildr has been worked on by so many different people, so many different years or over years, there's a lot of like font overrides and stuff. So it's not as simple as just setting it on the body element, but that's what I'm working towards. So if possible, I don't want to override the font willy-nilly on this page. I want to just, if it is getting it from the cascade, I want to get it from the cascade. So all I'm going to do is check and make sure nothing is explicitly setting a font. It looks like it's not. Yeah. So I think then that means this probably is the right font. It's funny, I can't tell, but it doesn't actually look totally correct to me. It's a heavier weight than I've been using in other areas. But the font I'm looking at, yeah, it's not. So this is Arial. So I don't actually know where that's coming from. This CSS, oh, the whole thing. From this page probably. It's the same thing, it's that page body issue. All right, yeah, so there we go. So that's actually the font we want. And I think what I'm gonna do is make this supporting text a bit smaller and keep it the same weight, and then make this like slightly heavier weight. And I mentioned last week too about what I love about this. We're using this variable weight font. It's called Rubik, but it's variable weight. You pulled them from Google Fonts, but you can use like any value on the spectrum of like 200 to 900 for a weight. So for like design wise, like I actually think that's a really underrated design tool is font weights. But you can get really specific with all the different weights, and it really adds a lot to a design. It's like a little thing you can do that adds a lot to a design. Let's see. Actually, before I go in there, let me check that message just in case. Okay. Okay. Hiding screen, coming back. Okay. So yeah, let's see. So we got the right font, and now if I go back here into this lower, we got project name. So again, I'll just put inline styles for now, but I'll definitely move these into classes at some point. But I want to do a font weight on this project name. They're probably both 400 right now, which is like standard. And I think what I'll do, let's try like this. Let's make this one 500. We'll keep this one at 400, but we'll make it smaller. Whoa. Live, you know, what are you gonna do? That's actually been happening on the Bildr project, and I was working with Alex yesterday, and he said it's happening on his project. He has a very complex project. But we made fixes for it, and so if I were using the dev environment, it doesn't happen in there anymore, so it'll get fixed. It has to do, I think, Dorian would know, I think it had to do with loading. There were like areas where it was loading all the elements of the project when it shouldn't have been, or something like that, to where it's in the background so you don't notice. But if you have a project with a lot of elements, it like slows it down, and do it a couple times and the browser just crashes. Anyway, we get back to here. So on here, I'm just gonna set a font size to like probably 0.8 em. So it's just a little smaller. Usually if you go much smaller than like 0.75, it's too hard to read. Unless it's maybe like a really unimportant label, I might go like 0.6. But like a 0.8, like a 1em to a 0.8em is like a nice little visual break. So it usually does the trick. But let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think that looks pretty nice. I kind of want it, like this is 500 and 400. I might try 400 and 300 because I feel like it's a little clunky, but it's definitely not bad. I mean, that's just my personal preference. So I'll just give that a shot really quick, and then if not, revert it. So I'll do 300 on the description, and then 400 here. Didn't update live. Yeah, I kind of think that looks nicer. If I use this over time and then realize that like, oh, that's not, it's too hard to read, or because it could be something like that, I'll make a change to it. But for now, I think that's a good spot to kind of leave it in as I start to design other stuff. I think I have this process. I try to I wish I could put it into words more. I'm trying to actually do that, but it's where I like fix the thing that looks the most broken to me, and then that shows me a whole different view of everything else around it. And then I fix the thing that looks most broken. I just do that over and over again. I feel like that's my design process. And for whatever reason, I really want to articulate that and like write it out, but it's kind of hard to explain. So I've been thinking about it a lot. Anyway, if I'm looking at this for what I want to do next, I can see that there's this black section on the bottom, and then there's like the image. It's like I keep rolling over it, so it's putting that cover over, but the image cuts off too soon. The image isn't going full screen or full div, full container. And I don't want that. And what I want to do is I want to make sure I can accommodate any image size. So this probably is just sitting an actual image in there. Maybe it's not. It might be using a background image. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it's using a background image. And then I'm going to set that background image. I'm going to set the size to cover, which is just a setting that makes it cover. So it'll actually like crop it a little differently if it cuts it off. So there's a trade-off, but it makes layouts like this, like you definitely want it to cover, because if it doesn't, if the ratio of the image doesn't fit well in the design, it looks glitchy and bad. Whereas if all the images look good and they're the correct right size, but maybe like some of the edges are cut off, that's usually a better trade-off in my opinion. But people have different opinions on that too, I guess. But let's see, I'm gonna look at how it's done first. So yeah, it's just an image sitting in there actually. It's an image sitting there with a height of 350 pixels. So, I mean, we could actually do it this way, potentially. But I think what we need to do is make sure then that this upper is also 350 pixels. And I'm super weary normally of hard coding pixel values for anything. But in this setting where it's like an app, basically, it's like everything's very utilitarian, and we know most of the time people are on desktops, or we know like you're not on mobile. Like there's some considerations you don't have for a marketing website, basically. Because of that, a couple of these things, like these cards especially, I've been just hard coding pixel values, which makes things a little bit easier. But traditionally, like on a marketing website, that makes things harder with responsive design and accommodating all the devices and stuff. So let's see. Looks like that didn't work. Did I make that? Yeah. And there's all kinds of so here's something like, so like I made this upper 350 pixels thinking it'll just work. Or did I even do that? Oh, I did it in here. Thinking that'll just work, but actually it's like, because I didn't style this outer, I didn't realize there's a different height on here. There's a display flex and a column. So it's actually like that kind of like messes with the height. I think what I'm going to do, usually when it's display flex and flex direction column, usually you can just make that display block, which is kind of like default, and everything's fine. The one difference is like it's spacing it vertically when you have flex and column. So you might have different gaps in spacing, but usually I'll do something like that and just space it with block, which will make... So now, and then this height, I'm going to actually just do... I'm going to do that thing I was doing last week where I comment out like this. We're just going to comment out the height for now and see what happens. And start to see how these are built. So yeah, so that's a little more standard now. So this upper is going to be 350 pixel height always. And then this lower part is going to have... it's going to start in the same spot, but you can see they're different heights. So one thing I might want to do, if I want these to be the same height, I'll actually put that display flex back and modify some things a little bit to make it, or maybe I'll put a display grid. That's more my preference. If I do a display grid, I can basically set the bottom to auto and the top to like 1 FR. So the bottoms will all line up. And if a project has a longer description, it'll just kind of shrink the image a little bit. That's probably what I would do, but right now I might not tackle that. Like I'll probably end up coming back to that. For now, I don't care. They're different heights. I want to actually just like get some other stuff sort of massaged into place. So one thing is, I don't really think I want to have the image like this. It's setting it to a 350 pixel height, and the outer container has overflow hidden, I'm guessing. So it's just cutting off the image. It's like starting in the top left and then cutting it off. So that's not really what I want to do. What I'd like to do is what I said with the background image, which will potentially cut some of it off depending on the aspect ratio. But I'll see how it looks, and it's probably going to be like a better trade-off in my opinion, but we'll see. If it doesn't look good, we'll switch it back. So let's see. So upper, and it's got the cover. So I think what I can do is on upper, I'm just going to set these out here just to keep them separate, almost like to show it. But basically, I'm going to set a few background styles that will make this background effect happen. And I should mention, I'm going to actually make this little thing I do into an action called set background image, so that you can do this more easily. Because I do this all the time. It's like the same couple steps, but it's like I need background size, background position. Oh, and another cool tip is when you're searching for things that have multiple words, you just need to type the first 2 letters of each word. It's like a really fast way to search. So if I wanted like background repeat, I would type BARE and I get background repeat. And then these are just like properties I know what they are, but sometimes you have to look them up. So position, center, and no repeat, kind of self-explanatory. And then size is where I do cover. And then the actual background image in this case is dynamic. It depends on what the card is. So this image here is getting set dynamically somehow. So all I have to do is find that. So if I go to page binding, I can see it's probably this set value image. And what I can do is I'll add a new one called set style. This isn't exactly setting a value, but I'm setting the background image style. So set style image. So I choose the upper, which is what I'm putting the background image on. The property is background image. And then another reason why I want to make this its own action is because there's a slight trick to the syntax. So you have to do a concatenate and you go URL parenthesis quote. In here, we'll do the actual value. But first, I'm just going to close that off. Close quote, close parenthesis. So in here, the value of this is whatever is setting into this image. So I can go, it's a variable, current page, this ID. So I go from variable, current page, that ID. And so now that'll set the background image. And right now, I didn't delete the actual image that's in it. So right now, it'll have both. Oh, I guess we won't even be able to see it because the image will cover. I'm just gonna... I'll show it just because I opened it, but yeah, it's not even gonna work. Okay, but what I can do, because I don't want to necessarily delete. Well, I want to delete this image because we might put it back to the system, and I don't want to lose all that work. So I'll just hide it, but I had to wait for these menus to clear out. This is another thing. It's the same bug I mentioned before, where it's getting tripped up on something in the back. And one of the telltale signs is when you mouse over these and they stay out. You just have to basically wait for it to clear up. So a lot of times I'll click on the canvas and come back in. You can see it, and then you just kind of like have to wait for it. But again, it's fixed. And I'm sure it's actually going to pop up again in the future, and then we're going to fix it again. It's kind of how a lot of things work as the whole studio is scaling. You know, we're on like the same infrastructure as everyone else. So as everything scales in general, these things just pop up, and we experience them right away because we're working in it. So we just fix them, and we're technically one step ahead because we have a dev environment. But like I said, with that partial publishing, it won't be months at a time. We'll only be a little bit ahead of everyone else. I don't know what it's doing right now though. It's pretty frozen, so I'm just kind of waiting for it to unfreeze. I should probably stop clicking. I'm adding more processes. But it'll do this. It might crash again if it gets too crazy, but it'll do this sometimes for this long, and then if you wait long enough, it just pops back in. I might be able to restart it too. I could probably try that in a second. I just feel like I've waited so long, it's probably close. All right, I'll restart. Restarting usually does the trick because it stops whatever process is going. But if you ever run into this, if you like do one thing and then it locks up, if you restart and do the exact same thing, it'll probably just lock up because it's like doing the same process behind the background. So it's like a little weird. Well, I don't even know what I did before that, but I'm gonna do probably something a little different anyway. Oh yeah, I'm gonna hide this image right now. So yeah, so again, like just to not delete it, I'll just come to the image and do display none. And then if this works out, I'll just come in here and delete the image after. So you can see that image is gone. Now it's a centered image on here, which like that doesn't necessarily look great for this blank project one, but also these are more or less placeholder images. I mean, they're not exactly because these are our current templates, but it's like we're redesigning this, so we'll have the opportunity to update the template image if we want. But I think this one actually like works fine. This one probably works fine. This one works fine. I mean, that's exactly how it looks. So I feel like these are good. I think what we'll probably do is switch it. So instead of a studio view, well, maybe not because it is a template, it is for the studio. But we'll see what we do with these screenshots, but I think this method of showing them is better. And then I think next I'll center these, and basically at that point I'll just have it to kind of like a baseline of like getting the low hanging fruit out of the way. Like I have it at this new baseline, and then we can kind of like reassess. It's probably, yeah, it's like 10 minutes left in the hour, so we won't even do more than that today maybe, but that's good for me to then do other stuff and come back to it and judge it like objectively, and then keep working on it, you know, over the next couple of days. I'll have to switch back to this crazy lessons stuff I'm doing. I'm doing so much experimentation on these lessons pages. It's really cool system that's built, but it's like a whole new UI. So I've got it crazy. So I can take a break from this, go back to that, and I'll probably see all these new things I didn't see before when I was working, work on those a little, and then come back to this and see all these new things. Good system. So anyway, let's see. This cover here is what I wanted to do. I want to just vertically center these things basically, and I'm going to make both buttons the same width. So on the cover, I'll see what's on here now, styles wise. So it's flex. So this, I can probably just do this really quickly by going place items center. I'll see if that works. I think that works with flex. Oh no, it doesn't work. So I'll just change it. That works with grid. So if you have a grid, and then I don't need this flex direction anymore. Place item center, width 100, height 100. Oh, I see, because it's absolute. I think this will work. Okay, yeah. And then I just need to put the stuff that I wanted them to be like centered together. But if you do place item center and there's two items, it like spaces them evenly. But what you do is you just put one child inside of the, so I have display grid on, display grid and place item center on this element. You just put one child in there, and then whatever you put in will be vertically and horizontally centered. So it's like that. And then this div, let's see what these are. These probably aren't block level, so that's why they went side by side. I think what I want to do is make them wider, like maybe a width of 100%. And I don't know, these classes I might not be able to change. Like it might be affecting something somewhere else in the studio, but I just want to see if this works. Actually, as not as what I was expecting. I thought they'd go full width, but I kind of like them like this. And that's probably because they're not display block, but I actually kind of like it like this. I wonder when I click preview, oh, it's not built yet. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's a better thing to do here. Like I'm not sure yet what goes in here. Select is important. Preview is probably important. I can't really think of anything else. So I'd say like at this point, this is at a stage where I'd take a little break. And I don't know if you can remember, but it looks like much different than it did before. Let me just see. I think it's a little bit cleaner. I think like maybe these are actually too much. Like maybe I'll make these slightly opaque. I'll just do that actually real quick right now. What I'd like to do is if I do see little things I want to change, I like to make the change so that when I come back, I don't just see that instant obvious thing. It's like when I come back, I see whatever the next thing is. So I might just go for like an opacity of, I'll try 0.6. That might be too much, but just something to sort of make it less important so that your eye goes to the blank project onboarding SaaS starter first. Just a small delay. There we go. Yeah, actually that looks a lot nicer. So yeah, I'll leave it at this stage, and then I think too it's been an hour, so I'll end the live stream. But yeah, thanks for watching. I mean, I hope this is interesting. We got some good feedback, so I feel generally good, but I feel also it's sort of hilarious that I'm just like chatting. Like a couple times just now, I forgot I was even live streaming. I'm just talking and working. But thanks for watching if you watched, and I'll probably just end it now. But we'll do the same thing next week. It'll probably be Mark doing it next week just to switch it up. If not, we also might do this thing where we both are live streaming, like it's both of us in the same stream. We can't do that now, but we think we figured out how. So we'll see. But either way, someone will be building next week on a similar thing like this. So yeah, thanks again, and I'll end the stream and see you next week and in Discord.